All right, episode 102. We are going to be talking about the Minnesota Vikings MVP candidates. As we have already went over breakout players, we've went over comeback players in the last two episodes. Today we're going to be talking about the most important one, and that is the MVP candidates for this upcoming season and who I believe should be the most valuable player and should have the best season out of every other Minnesota Vikings. And yes, there is positional value. Obviously, quarterbacks are more important than other positions, so that's what you have to take into the picture when you look at MVPs because quarterbacks are more valuable than any other position. So that's what you have to look at when you're looking at this. So with that being said, the last two seasons, Dalvin Cook has been undoubtedly the best player on the Minnesota Vikings team, has been a core part of not only the offense, but the team as a whole have revolved around Dalvin Cook. Now, last year, the Minnesota Vikings ran on 45.75% of their players, which, yes, it's not over half, but that's still remarkable considering we're in a pass heavy league and you have to pass if you want to be a Super Bowl contender. And the Vikings did set up the pass through the run. The Vikings revolved the pass around Dalvin Cook. So with that being said, in 2019, they also had 48.3% of plays were on the ground. So Vikings have revolved around Dalvin Cook these last two seasons. And rightfully so. I mean, he's been a top three running back in the NFL, undoubtedly. Obviously, I would say he's a top two, potentially top one, depending on Derrick Henry, if he's having a good day or not. So, Dalvin Cook, this upcoming season, should the Vikings revolve around Dalvin Cook? Now, last year, the Vikings struggled on passing. Vikings did not pass as good as they should have been able to. Now, obviously, Justin Jefferson had an excellent season. Adam Thielen inside the red zone was phenomenal. Outside of that, Kirk Cousins did throw a lot of interceptions, and this lacked success for the Vikings offense, as once you are behind, interceptions usually result in scoring plays for the other team. Then you have to pass to catch up, and you no longer can revolve around Dalvin Cook. So the Vikings did try to establish the run early in a lot of the games, and it worked very well against some of these teams. I mean, Detroit Lions, Dalvin Cook had field days against those defenses. Green Bay Packers, Dalvin Cook once again field days against that defense. Both divisional rivals, obviously, against the Texans as well. So you can use Dalvin Cook. You can run through Dalvin Cook against some of these defenses. However, if you take a look at it, you cannot use this against the Indianapolis Colts, as the Vikings tried, and Atlanta Falcons as well, which Dalvin Cook was injured that game, so you really don't know. But once again, Alexander Madison's a great backup and did not have a good game against the Atlanta Falcons. So it did lack success. It lost us a lot of the games, was just trying to run through that run. And these last two seasons, Dalvin Cook did do an excellent job on that. But once again, the Vikings should look to passing more this upcoming season. So last year, defensive MVPs were obviously Harrison Smith, as he was healthy the entire season. Otherwise, it would have been Eric Kendricks. So we're going to take a look at both offense and defensive MVPs this upcoming season in this episode. Starting at number 5, we have Justin Jefferson. Now, the reason why Jefferson is so low on this list is obvious. He's a wide receiver. It's not as valuable as quarterbacks. It's not as valuable as pass rushers, which is why he is this low in this list. Now, with that being said, the reason why he's a wide receiver and on this list at all is because of his yards after the catch. If you don't need Justin Jefferson to run very many deep routes because he can get you 40-yard plays on a 6-yard pass. He is excellent after the catch, and that is why he is on this list, because I do believe they don't have to protect for Kirk Cousins as long as they need to. Kirk Cousins doesn't need all the time in the world. When you have a wide receiver like Justin Jefferson, when you have a tight end like Irv Smith Jr., who are excellent playmakers after the catch. Now, obviously, last season was phenomenal, and he can have an even better season this upcoming year. Last year, he played 18 games where he had 88 receiving yards, or 88 receptions for 1,400 receiving yards. That's a very clean number right there. And 95 yards per game started. So obviously, if you watched last year, you would know that Justin Jefferson did not start the first two games for the Minnesota Vikings due to not having training camp because of COVID. He didn't start until week 3. So you take away the first 2 weeks and his receiving stats as a whole, he was averaging 95 yards a game. That is incredible. Not only for a rookie, but a wide receiver as a whole. That is phenomenal to average almost 100 yards per game started. On top of that, he did have 7 receiving touchdowns. And he can have an even better year going into year 2. Now, obviously, he has a year under his belt where he has experience. So him going into year 2 will understand the playbook a lot more. He can be top receiving yards next season. And that's why he's on this list, is because he's very young and has already developed this much into the NFL. And we're going to have a lot more fun using him this upcoming season with Clint Kubiak. He's going to he's going to find a way to use Justin Jefferson on every game, on every defense. Number 4, we have Eric Kendricks. Now, Eric Kendricks, when healthy, was the best player on this Vikings defense last year. Eric Kendricks, if he was healthy all 16 games, Vikings might have made the playoffs. That's how much value this guy has on our defense. He was excellent against the run, excellent against the pass even. Eric Kendricks is the best middle linebacker in the NFL. And I don't think that's debatable at all. Yes, he's not a pass rusher, but we don't need him to be a pass rusher. We need him against the run, and we need him to stop those passes. He played 11 games last year where he had 107 total tackles, 3 interceptions, and 6 pass deflections. So Eric Kendricks shuts down the entire middle side of the field, and that is why he's very valuable on this team and could be the most valuable player this upcoming season. If we had Eric Kendricks those final 5 games of the season, it would have been a different story. Alvin Kamara would not have 6 rushing touchdowns against the Vikings. That was not, there's no way he would have been able to, because Eric Kendricks stops every big run. It was so easy for running backs to get through the defensive line, but once they get through that defensive line, they have to deal with Eric Kendricks. So it wasn't the best for these running backs, except for when he was injured. Obviously, you saw Alvin Kamara, David Montgomery looking like superstars when they're just above average running backs. And then next up, we have Danielle Hunter. Danielle Hunter is the most anticipated player for the Minnesota Vikings this upcoming season, as he is a top 7 defensive end in the NFL. There's a lot of good pass rushers that play linebacker, so we're going to comfortably say that he's a top 7 defensive end in the NFL. The last 2 seasons we saw him play were phenomenal, and he can bring that into 2021. Thing is, we can't confirm that he will, because he is coming off of one of the worst injuries. A neck injury and a neck surgery is one of the worst you can have in the NFL. And it's a huge question mark for the Minnesota Vikings, as this guy hasn't played a whole year. And I've talked about this a lot on the podcast. With that being said, put that aside, Vikings' biggest reason why they did not succeed last year was the pass rush. Vikings had no pass rush all season. DJ Wonnum was our best pass rusher, and even he was just okay. Now, he was great for a rookie 4th rounder, but overall, he was just an okay pass rusher. The last 2 seasons we saw from Danielle Hunter, he both had 14.5 sacks, making him the youngest player to reach 50 career sacks in NFL history. And he can bring that into 2021. We don't even need 14.5 sacks. We just need him to hold his own. We need him to look somewhat like he looked in 2019 and 2018, where the Vikings can succeed, because that pass rush is very important in the NFL, as we're playing a lot of teams who love to pass. All teams love to pass nowadays, so we need someone who can bring that pass rush to the Vikings, because we can't rely on it to be DJ Wonnum. We can't rely on it to be Stephen Weatherly, and we most certainly cannot rely on Anthony Barr looking like 2014 Anthony Barr out of nowhere, because the last few seasons we saw from him were not that great. With that being said, though, Vikings need to rush Anthony Barr as much as they can. So that's why Danielle Hunter is 3rd on this list, is because of his positional value, and overall, he's just a phenomenal player, and I'm very excited to see what he can do this upcoming season. I'm also a little bit worried because of that surgery. And then in 2nd place, we have Dalvin Cook, who I've said already has been the MVP for the Vikings these last 2 seasons. Undoubtedly, has been a top 3 running back and has been the core reason for a lot of these wins that the Vikings have had, both in 2019, 2018, and in 2020. So Dalvin Cook has had an excellent career so far, playing 14 games started last year where he had 1,918 scrimmage yards for 17 total touchdowns and 5 yards per carry. I believe, I didn't check my stats on this, but I believe all the games where Dalvin Cook had over 100 total yards, the Vikings won. That just shows you how much we need Dalvin Cook to perform for the Vikings to succeed. However, it's not going to happen. If you only revolve around Dalvin Cook, there will be teams that will shut you down. We saw this against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We saw this against the Indianapolis Colts. You can't rely on Dalvin Cook every game, but he can get you a lot of easy wins, like we saw against the Detroit Lions, Houston Texans. Dalvin Cook can get you easy wins. Overall, though, Vikings need to pass more, and that is why 1st place we have Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins has more pressure on his back this upcoming season than he has ever played. And that's a good thing for Kirk Cousins. I believe when you put pressure on him, he does perform better. Now, people will say, oh, no, he doesn't, because his Monday night record is not the best. He's done well on Monday night. The Vikings have not. Kirk Cousins isn't the worst on Monday night as of recent memory. And also on top of that, he's the best the best quarterback by PFF ranked in the fourth quarter. So he does great under pressure. And this upcoming season, he will have more pressure than he's had any other year. And that is because this is career year for Kirk Cousins. This next season can define the rest of his career. Now, obviously, the Vikings have him signed through 2022 and is expected to be a free agent in 2023. Vikings can bench him after the season. If Kirk Cousins once again throws 13 interceptions this upcoming season, we can use Kellen Mond as a bumper. He is a bumper. Sean Mannion, we were not comfortable using him as a backup to replace Kirk Cousins. But this upcoming season, if Kirk Cousins plays all 16 games and the Vikings miss the playoffs, they'll look to trade him. They'll look for a different route for the Vikings to take. And that is why this is a lot of pressure on Kirk Cousins' back, and this is career year for Kirk Cousins. With that being said, he didn't have the worst season last year. Now, the first half of the season we want to forget. He threw 13 interceptions. Now, a lot of it was Hail Marys and forced passes. Once again, though, he did not have a great season. Well, he didn't have a terrible season, but he didn't have as good of a season as he should have had. Playing 16 games, 67.6 completion percentage, 35 on 13 touchdown to interception ratio, and a 63.2 QBR. So not the best season for Kirk Cousins, and it can definitely be better. And that's why I believe this upcoming season, it will be better because of with the pressure that we have brought on Kirk Cousins. Drafting Kellen Mond in the third round to potentially play for Kirk Cousins' job. Now, knowing Mike Zimmer, there's no way Kirk Cousins is going to be benched this upcoming season. They're not going to bench him for a rookie. They're not going to bench a $30-some million quarterback for a rookie to play. But after the season, they could be looking to a new quarterback, a new route for the Vikings to go. And with that being said, Mike Zimmer will be gone. If the Vikings miss the playoffs again, have anywhere near as bad of a season as they had last year, Mike Zimmer will be gone and Kirk Cousins will likely be traded. Will likely be looking to somewhere else. Will he be traded, though? I don't know if anyone's going to take his contract if he does perform another bad season. Now, that's saying the Vikings might miss the playoffs. However, I have Kirk Cousins first on this list because I'm very hopeful in my quarterback. I believe he will have a great season, and I believe the Vikings will be Super Bowl contenders. But we will need Kirk Cousins to do that. And like I've said multiple times in this channel, Kirk Cousins will need to use his legs. I'm not asking for a Lamar Jackson or Kyler Murray. I'm just asking for someone who can at least get a rushing touchdown. Hopefully Kirk Cousins can get a rushing touchdown this upcoming season. Maybe average 10 rushing yards a game. That's what I'm asking for. Just simple, easy plays for Kirk Cousins to make plays with his legs, which he can. And we've seen it happen. He can. He just doesn't. But I do believe this upcoming season, Vikings will have a lot better of a season than they had last year, will make the playoffs, and will make a run for the Super Bowl, potential Super Bowl contenders this upcoming season, and that will be because of Kirk Cousins. If they do compete for a Super Bowl, Kirk Cousins will be the Vikings MVP for his position, and just because he's a great quarterback. He's top 10 quarterback. Let's be safe. Top 15 quarterback in the NFL, can bring this Vikings offense to the next level, especially with the defensive players that we've added. So let me know what you guys think. Who do you think the top 5 players for the MVP candidates this upcoming season are? That is my list, as I do believe pass rush is very important. Passing is very important. And Dalvin Cook is just great. That's why he has to be on this list. Let me know what y'all think.